The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mindgarden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
Welcome back to another season of the Sandy and Toddcast. It is lucky number 13. She is Sandy.
He is Todd.
And we are talking all things spooky, weird, odd, interesting, stuff like that.
Basically about ourselves.
Pretty much. And our lives and things that we... Yeah. Hey, this past Friday, I was on a radio show talking about ghosts. And the host... I have to tell you this, the host is a non-believer, period.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is. So the show is a political show, but every once in a while they talk about like fun stuff. So that's why he had me on. And I said, so this is what I said to him. I said, I'm not here to make you believe. However, in my mind, the same person who says there are no ghosts, there are no UFOs, there's no such thing as... are the same people that can't have open conversations about politics and learn something new. They're just people who think everything they believe is right.
Yes.
And that, I could tell it kind of made him go, I guess I am that way, you know?
Right.
And then was able to kind of talk a little bit about our experience at Cana Island. I didn't bring it up specifically, but I said there was an experience where my mom came through, blah, blah, blah. And that, you know, my involvement with investigations has changed from, hey, I want to go out and get scared tonight, I want to see a ghost, to what's the real story here? Who are we? Sure. Who is this person? What is this place? What's the meaning? All that kind of stuff. And I think he said, well, the only thing that I can go off of is what I see on TV. He said, and I see these jackknobs, you know, threatening to, and everything's a demon. And I said, well, first of all, you're watching the wrong shows. Right. And that's not really what it's about. And you and I have said that forever. Mm-hmm. So at least he was open to go, you know, I said to him, what would it take for you to go, that could be something? Not, hey, that's a ghost, but that could be something. And he said, probably I would need to spend more time with somebody who investigates the way you investigate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I think that there are a lot of people out there, I'm kind of generalizing, but there are a lot of people out there who think that open-minded people are vulnerable and gullible.
Yep.
But I don't necessarily think of it that way. You know, I tend to feel as if I am a much more well-rounded person by being able to have that ability to listen to both sides and make honest opinions. I am not afraid to admit that I am wrong about something.
Right.
And I think that's why there's such a political fervor in the United States today, is because there are a lot of people out there who aren't willing to say, hey, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I am not as open-minded as I thought I was. You know, you make a good point, you know, so. Right.
Or even I don't have to, even though I support this particular person, I don't have to support everything about this person. I know some of it is bullshit. I know some of it is, you know.
It's never an all or nothing.
Right. And that's what we've become.
Never.
That's what we've become. So
in most things in life, that's what we've become, unfortunately.
But here's the problem with these damn radio shows. They give me a half hour and we just get started. And then they're like, oh, you've got to come back. Well, have me on longer next time. God damn it.
I know. You hear you've got this 13.5-minute time slot and then we're done.
Yep.
And that's it.
You got to change my mind about ghosts.
In 13.5 minutes. But but that's a great point. That's so true. And I think the more open-minded, and don't get me wrong, I am skeptic. Believe it or not, people say to me, how can you be, you know, psychic or a medium or have abilities or this or that and still be skeptical of it. You don't believe yourself. It's not that I don't believe myself. What I believe is that there could possibly be other explanations for what I see, hear, feel, experience, what I get on. If something knocks over, could it have been somebody closing a door downstairs? Could it have been this? Could it have been that? I am willing to understand and accept the fact that it may not be a ghost.
Right.
And I think that is the best way to do this stuff, is to be that open-minded to say, okay, maybe it's not a ghost. Let me just see it, what all of the things that it possibly could be are, and then see if that actually is it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I think that it's never an all or nothing.
No,
never.
Usually I look at something and I say to myself, it's probably not a ghost. But in order to satisfy, let's look at this, and this, right? So
whether it's scientific equipment, because we all know that sometimes scientific equipment can go wrong. So, everything is fallible.
Right.
So that's why you have two pieces of scientific equipment at the same time. Or my Scooby saga that's been going on for months and months and months and months and months and months now. I was just telling you before we started recording that I had Dave up here with me. Scooby fell yet again. He's going through his time of falling. And I pounded on everything in front of Dave around it that I possibly could. Scooby did not move. Actually, the Shaggy figurine that's next to him moved more than Scooby did. And Shaggy hasn't been touched. But those are the kind of things that I'm open-minded to. Could it have been? I said, Dave, go down and slam the kitchen door. So he slammed it. Didn't move an inch. Nothing is moving it. So, but that's the kind of stuff. And I think that, it's never all or nothing. And I think being open-minded is great in any facet of your life, not just the paranormal, but in anything you do. Being willing to listen, being willing to compromise, being willing to admit that maybe you were wrong. And none of us really want to do that anymore. And I think that we really should.
Yeah. And I also think, too, in the world of ghosts, spirits, energy, blah, 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 there's never a 100% for sure.
No.
We can't know for sure what we're dealing with or how we're dealing with it. Are these energies that have passed on? Are these energies that are living in another realm right now that we happen to be contacting? We don't really know. And so I think we as paranormal investigators have an advantage because we work in that realm of never being 100% sure of what's going on, that we're able to look at other situations in life and go, well, I agree with this, but I don't agree with that. Or this makes sense, but I have a little problem with that. You know what I'm saying?
We don't know for sure. I can tell you with 99% certainty that this is what I believe it to be.
Right.
After, say eliminating everything else. But that 1% is always there. It's always there. It could be something else. We just don't know. We can never say anything with certainty. And so, it's a weird line to try and walk in the paranormal world when you're a serious person in the paranormal world. It's a hard line. And that's why it's completely different a lot of times from some of these scare shows, Ghost Adventures. And, they're just there for the thrill of it. And I will say this, for what it is, it's exciting, but it's not what it's truly all about.
Right.
It's the excitement. I love the excitement, but now I'm in a different phase of my life where it's not so much the excitement as it is, and I still like the excitement, but it's not as much that as it is the trying to. I don't need to prove anything, but what I need to do is maybe start to understand things a little bit more and maybe figure out who I am in the midst of all of this.
Right.
And it's funny that we're talking about this because I was just telling you about a young lady who is 16 years old, who I've known for several years, and her parents are friends of ours, and she's very much into the paranormal. And a couple of summers ago, we did this with another young lady who was think she was 13 or 14 at the time, very much into the paranormal. And that age loves to watch shows on TV that may not necessarily be the best shows to learn about the paranormal, if you get my drift.
Yep.
So I tend to like to take them with me. I've done this a couple times before. Take them with me on an investigation, or just take them with me and we'll go somewhere and use some equipment so that they can kind of see the way I can answer questions. They can kind of see the way that things should be. So this Friday night, we're actually doing a very small investigation with some friends of ours who we've investigated with before. And it's just a low-key one. And we're actually bringing her and her mom with us, who's also very much into the paranormal. We're going to bring them with us so that they can see what a real investigation is. And, maybe it's not as exciting as the scare stuff on TV, but that's what it really is. And I'd love to teach younger people the real way to do things before they get too,
set in their ways. Yeah.
Set in their ways as to what they see on the TV all the time.
Right.
There are some great ones out there. Kindred Spirits was a great show.
I have to say this. If I were Kindred Spirits and I were some of these other shows that were on Discovery/Travel, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would be so pissed off that they canceled us, but then run marathons of our goddamn show. Like
I know.
Last weekend, they did a whole marathon all day of Kindred Spirits. And I'm thinking, you motherfuckers.
I know. It's crazy. So they,
we're not going to pay for another season, but we're going to use all the work that you guys have already done, and we're going to make some more money off you.
Exploit it.
Yep.
We're going to exploit it on you. But I will say this. There are a lot of people out there like Katrina Weidman and some of our Kindred Spirits people and people like that who have actually turned to YouTube now.
Yeah.
And Project Fear. So I'm not anti the excitement shows because I love, remember Destination Fear?
Yep.
Is it Destination Fear?
Yep.
I can't even remember what it was now. It was so long ago on Discovery, and it had Alex and Chelsea and what's his face, who used to be a cameraman for Ghost Adventure.
Right.
They have become Project Fear, and for a couple of years now, they've been doing their own shows on YouTube. I love that show, and I take it for what it is, and that's why I love it, because I know what it is. It's not hardcore investigating. It's just sort of the scare factor, but there's history involved, and you know how I am about history, and so I recommend that to people. Go check out Katrina Weidman's channel. Go check out Jason Hawes' channel. Go check out all of those, because they do a lot of investigations and videos and stuff that are so cool. And so I highly recommend that, rather than a lot of these, and they're not even really doing many anymore on mainstream television. But go check out YouTube. There's so much there that you would love and enjoy. Dave and I sit there sometimes when we're bored, and we'll just watch YouTube. We'll cast YouTube videos. Like Katrina Weidman has some great investigation videos, and we'll just check those out and watch those, because they're very legit.
Yeah.
And they're very they can be very raw. They're well put together, but they can be very raw, so it's very cool to watch them. So I just highly recommend that. So so
I wanted to very quickly talk about a movie that's getting so much attention right now on Netflix called The Deliverance.
Yes.
My sister,
got Glenn Close in it.
Yeah. My sister watched it and immediately messaged my other sister and I, oh my God, I'm not going anywhere alone, blah, blah, blah. So these stories, this is quote unquote based on an actual story out of Gary, Indiana, that happened back in the mid 2000s. About between 2011, 2014, 2016, some stuff took place at a house in Indiana and affected this woman and her family. And I saw some of the news footage that took place around that time, because I looked at it after I watched the film. And obviously the film becomes very Hollywood, and a lot of things are changed and things are made to be bigger than they actually were. But I watched this movie, and it was creepy. It was very creepy. It's about a demonic possession, and of not only one individual, but kind of several individuals in the family. And I don't know, it doesn't seem to be very lined up with the actual story. So a lot of it, I'm sure, was embellished. But I do want to say this. I walk away from these movies and I worry about people who are labeled with mental health problems or alcoholism or drug abuse and all that. And I worry about them because sometimes maybe it's deeper than just the surface. Maybe it's more than just the alcohol. And I think anybody who's an alcoholic or has gone through that realizes it's not just the alcohol. It's things that happened in their lives that made them turn to alcohol, right? Same thing with drugs. There are certain things that happen in their lives. I kind of feel the same way about possessions and bad energy affecting you. And this was a situation where nobody wanted to believe this woman, including her church at the time. Finally, a pastor or a priest did come in and give the actual woman exorcism of the house and of her and all that kind of stuff. But I really worry about people who might be suffering and we don't know how deep it is.
Yeah. I think it was ironically, I was just going through my Netflix the other day, finding shows and movies that I wanted to put on my list so that Dave and I could watch it now that it's getting a little less active time and, winter going to set in fall and winter. And I want to put them on a list. And I saw that it had Glenn Close in it. So I actually watched the trailer.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that is a movie and sometimes there are movies like that just I'm totally not interested in right
exactly. Yep.
But this movie just seemed like, especially with Glenn Close, I thought, this isn't going to be a junk piece of movie. I said, this is going to be a good movie. I said, I'm going to put it on the list. So I was telling Dave about it. And it's so funny that you brought it up. I think we were just saying that a few years ago when we did a season with Just Questions, I think it was that season, we had someone who reached out to us. I can't remember who it was. It was a while ago, about working in a group home. And do we think that it's possible that some of the violence or some of the problems that the people that she cares for in the group home could be related to negative energies, and I will say yes. I will say that there is a huge difference, like I told you earlier, between the demonic and just negative energies.
Right.
They both exist, but it's much more common for a negative spirit, a negative energy to be present than the demonic to be present. But both require some form of vulnerability in order to make their presence known. And so I think you hit the nail on the head, Todd, because how many times has it been that people have gone to rehab or people have done this or done that? And these are not bad people. These are just people who it's almost like something else is controlling them. Something else is taking part of their life from them. And I'm just wondering how many people who have such mental illness, people throw around about serial killers that, they're demonic or they're, but maybe it's not demonic per se, but maybe there is something there that we just don't understand because a lot of people aren't willing to look at that.
Right.
As
Again,
a possibility.
Not being open-minded about it. Right.
Sure.
I mean, and I'm spoiler alert. I don't want to give too much away here, but there's an instance where one of the sons was in a mental health situation, strapped down in the bed, blah, blah, blah. And what happens in the movie It's pretty incredible. And it actually happened in real life. You can see the reports from the police reports and stuff like that. And even after seeing this particular thing happen in the hospital with, I believe, a doctor and maybe even like somebody with law enforcement who noticed that actually witnessed this, they didn't want to take that into consideration because that would be admitting that something more than just a crazy person was going on here. And to me, if you watch the movie and you see that, and it's even remotely close to what happened in real life, I think you pretty much fucking know that that's not just mental illness, you know?
Right.
So I wanted to bring that up because I think the word that you said was vulnerable. And I worry about the people in our world that are vulnerable, the children who live in broken homes or with, anger and abuse. People who are hungry, people who have no home, no foundation in their life.
Right.
These people, all of them are vulnerable. We're all vulnerable to a certain degree. We've all gone through stuff in our life. Some of us are lucky that we've had support to get us through it. But there are people that have had much worse things done or much more done to them. And does that negativity in their life create something else? That's the thing that interests me.
And I'm not saying that everybody who has a drinking problem or a drug problem or a mental health issue or anything, we're not saying that it's negative spirits or the demonic.
No.
But
negative energy, right?
Negative energy. Yeah. Sure. Does it perpetuate it? Does it make it worse? Does it keep you from getting better? Because it holds you down. It's almost like you're strapped on a bed being held down.
Right.
Is that possible?
I mean, think about it this way. Take like the spookiness away from it. Take the demonic stuff out. If you've had a lot of shit in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to feel a certain way about life. You're going to feel a certain way about yourself. You're going to feel a certain way about humanity. I mean, we can all look at things in our lives that have made us who we are.
Right.
So that negativity has created a bit of who we are right now in our life. But is it possible that for some people, the negativity is so strong that, as you said, it perpetuates into other things in their life? I think it very well could be.
If you look at it on even the most basic level, if you wake up in the morning and you're in a bad mood, let's just use that. You're in a bad mood. Well, you're miserable to the husband or the wife. You're miserable to the kids. You're miserable. And then it perpetuates. And now the whole family is miserable.
Right.
And maybe you start fighting with each other. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, all because you woke up in a bad mood. But that's the same kind of idea.
Right.
You can see how it perpetuates itself and it gets worse and worse and worse. And nobody's talking to each other by the end of the day because you woke up in kind of a bad mood.
Right.
I think same kind of idea, just on a bigger scale.
Right.
How many people who have alcohol dependencies, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad as it was without the negativity. Your mind is very powerful. Like, you can make things happen with just enough power through the mind.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just as I talk, I'm coming out with this, but there's so many possibilities out there. I think that maybe not all of it is something that we do to ourselves, but maybe it's something that we've encouraged to manifest and become bigger and bigger, just in our own. You wake up, you're miserable, and you feel sorry for yourself, and you become more miserable. That's just kind of a way to compare it on a lower scale. But what if it does? What if we know of stories where human minds, experiments create a ghost,
right?
So why can't you manifest that negative energy around yourself that's holding you down and suppressing it?
Right.
That's why the power of positivity can be so great. Because just like the negativity can perpetuate, so can the positivity.
For some reason, I feel like the negative stuff is easier to perpetuate.
I agree. The
positive is much more difficult.
It is. And I don't know why that is, but it seems to be a lot easier to perpetuate. So I don't know. That was a great little conversation. I definitely want to see this movie. And then I'm going to, while you were talking about it, I thought, should I look it up first? But I'm not. I'm going to watch the movie first. And then I'm going to look up the true case that happened.
Yeah.
And see what that was all about. So it's called The Deliverance, and it's on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, definitely check it out.
Yep. And Glenn Close is great. Actually, everybody in that movie is very good.
I love her.
So let's talk about the saga of Sandy. There's so many. I mean, we could do an episode called The Saga of Sandy.
And that's just a great example of, I don't know what the fuck goes on in my life anymore. Like, if you had asked me like 4 or 5 years ago if I would be in this position today, I would have laughed my ass off.
I'm putting you on the spot, but can you tell the dental story just real quickly?
Oh, I got to tell the story because this is funny. All right. So, and I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be real. All right, I'm 53 years old. I am going through perimenopause. And so I always had a little bit of anxiety, but in the past 4 or 5 years, my anxiety has been through the roof, almost to the point where I need medication. I think I need medication.
And you might want to check into that. Yes.
Thanks.
Well, I'm just thinking of you and, of course, thinking of Dave.
I know. So I can take the smallest thing, and ladies, you'll understand this. I can take the smallest little thing and turn it into something insane. So every 3 months, I get my teeth cleaned. I was doing perio, then my periodontist retired, and I got anxious about having to find a new perio because everybody knows how important it is to trust and know your doctors. I have a whole team of doctors. And so it's very important. So I was very stressed about that. So my dental hygienist at the time, a couple of years ago, said, don't worry about it. Just come and get your teeth done here every 3 months instead of every 6 months, switching between the perio and the regular. I said, okay. So that's what I do now. So I get it done every 3 months. And my hygienist now, Kim, is wonderful. She's absolutely, I love her, love her, love her. And so I had to get a cleaning done last Wednesday. No big deal. I always get a cleaning done. But I happened to look in the back of my mouth, and I don't even know why I did it. But I looked in the back of my mouth Saturday before, and I see in the back like a spot on my tooth. And I immediately was like, oh, maybe it's something that I ate that's still there. I haven't brushed my teeth yet after dinner. Let me go brush my teeth. So I brushed my teeth. I looked, it's still there. So now I'm freaking out because I'm like, I don't want a cavity. I do everything I possibly can to take care of my teeth. And at this stage of my life, and I have a freaking cavity. How did this happen? When I was in there 3 months ago, it wasn't there. So now my anxiety is starting to really grow. And poor Dave had to listen to me say it 50 million times. I said, I can't believe now I'm going to have to spend all this money to go get a filling done and blah, blah, blah. Now I got to blah, blah. So I go in and I'm almost crying. Like for 4 days straight, I would almost break into tears when I thought about my, it makes no sense. Ladies, you understand that. Your anxiety will make no sense. So I go in and first thing I said to her, I gave her a hug. We always hug each other. And this is my dentist's office, by the way. And we're hugging and it's like a big family there. I've been going there for years and years. And I said, Kim, I have a cavity. And I thought it was odd because I had no discomfort, no pain, nothing at all up there in that region. And she says, okay, I'll look at it when we start to do the thing. So I said, okay. So I'm laying back there and she starts to clean my teeth and I'm waiting for her to say something. And finally I said, Kim, did you see it? She says, Sandy, that's your filling. And I said, what? I had forgotten that, especially back in the old days, when you would get a filling in a tooth, if it wasn't in the front, they would put the silver fillings in.
Right.
And it just never occurred to me. I didn't think about it. And, it's way, way back in the back of my mouth. So I don't necessarily pull my cheek back constantly and look at it. I haven't probably looked at it in forever. And so I said, okay, Kim, we're not going to tell doctor about this, okay? And she says, no, we're not going to tell him about this. We'll just keep this to ourselves. I'm like, but she probably told him after I left.
Of course. Are you kidding me?
But that's like my life. That's how my life is now, with all of this going on. So that's part of my saga. and then, okay. So one other part is that Scooby is now starting to be active again. He was quiet for about a month, and now he's falling over constantly. He got launched off again the other day. But everybody knows that my mom passed away on May 31st. And the past couple of years, 2 years ago, I lost one of my close friends unexpectedly, Trey. We've had many shows about it, mentioning it. And we all know that after I found out about him passing away, I did do the spirit box. And I actually played that episode last weekend.
Right.
Because of the holiday. And I played that episode from a couple of years ago. And the amazing responses that I got. And then ironically, about 6 months later, I did it again and got even more amazing responses. Maybe it was a little bit later than 6 months. It was a while ago. It was like February. Maybe it was February of this year it was. I'm sorry, guys. So I got some more amazing responses. And I've always felt like he's been here visiting me. He may be the Scooby person. I don't know. So after my mom passed away, and please excuse me if I get a little emotional, but I really felt like I should tell this story today. Because I know there's a lot of people who go through similar things when they lose a parent or any loved one. You feel a little bit of guilt. When my mom passed away, her health had been declining for years, but she was still getting around and doing things. And so when I got to the hospital on that night, it was something that I would never wish for anyone to have to witness. She just didn't look like my mother. And I had to be the one to make the decision to bring her off of the tubes and let her pass peacefully and with dignity. And so I did. And then I made all the decisions for her cremation and her burial. So I knew I was very emotional. And that holds with it guilt as well. I mean, you're literally giving the okay to let your parent pass away. And that was very difficult. And even though you know it's the best decision to make, it still leaves you with a little bit of guilt and a little bit of confusion. And so after she passed, I waited about a week. And I sat down and I did a spirit box session. And I'm not going to play them just because they're very personal. They're even more personal than my Tremaine ones. And I thought that the Tremaine ones would be okay to share with everyone. But these are it's my mom, so it's very personal. But I still wanted to tell the story. So I sat down and I did a spirit box session. And I wasn't emotionally strong enough to review it right away. So I just saved it and I put it away. And to be honest with you, I forgot about it. So last week, I found it and I listened to it again and I reviewed it. And I actually got some responses. And the first thing I did was I sent them to you.
Yep.
Because I wanted to know your opinion on them and what you thought. And so when we were in the emergency room and they were about to pull the plugs on the tubes and stuff, I gave my mother a word. And I said, Mom, I know you can hear me. I said, this is our word. I said, I want you to come back and give me that word. Not really knowing whether that was going to happen or not. And it wasn't like a word like, what's your word, Todd? Pumpernickel?
Pumpernickel, right.
It wasn't really a word like pumpernickel, right? It was just a normal word. And I'm sitting there and I'm reviewing these questions that I asked. And one of the questions was, I hope that you're proud of me for making the decisions that I made and how I'm doing. And we hadn't had her service or anything yet, so this was still in the midst of it. And I heard yes come through. And then I said, Mom, can you tell me what our word was? And that word came through. And then I said, can you give me something, Mom? Can you give me my name? And now my full name is Cassandra.
And if you need more on that, listen back to one of our first episodes. She'll tell you how she was named Cassandra.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, that was funny as hell. And so, but everybody calls me Sandy.
Right.
You know, so I was expecting to hear all the times Trey has said Sandy. You know, everybody says Sandy. And I said, tell me my name. And clear as day, doesn't Cassandra come through?
Yep.
And that just, I lost it. I just lost it. My mom came through to me. My mom came through to me. She gave me the word. She told me she was proud of me. And she gave me my name. And when I called Dave up, he was a little speechless and he said, and you know, think about it. It didn't say pizza when you asked for something. It didn't say, you know, safe like you get a lot of times. It gave you real answers in real context to what you asked. So the next day I did a quick one because I wanted to see if anything would happen. Just a quick one. And at one point I said, Mom, I love you. And plain as day, I got, I love you. So I tell this story because just like the episode that I replayed over the holiday weekend of my conversation with Trey, I just hope it gives you guys hope that your loved ones never really leave. Just like Todd, your mom came through when we were at Canna Island.
Yep.
They really don't ever leave. And they may not come around and answer every time you try.
When did they ever, though? When you were a kid? When did your parents ever do that?
Ain't that the truth?
Right.
But they are around. Just know that they are around. So I really wanted to share that. And again, the hearing it is very personal for me on this level. So I'm not really ready to be able to say to show everybody those yet. But that is something that I will forever be grateful for. Now, to wrap us back around to the beginning of the conversation, am I 100% sure that was my mother? I can't be. How can I be 100% sure that was my mother?
Right.
But I'll tell you, I'm 99.9% sure that was my mother. You know, and if it can just give you, if my stories can just give you a little bit of hope, that's what I would wish for. I would just wish for you to be hopeful that they really did. they really don't leave you 100% when they go. They're always there. So that's that. And also, speaking of the idea that we were talking about with the movie, The Deliverance.
Yeah.
I would love to know, I know you would too, what people think about that idea that we discussed about maybe some people's problems aren't necessarily just the problems. You know, why does it keep recurring? Why does it keep going on? Is there some sort of negativity that stays with certain people who are a little more vulnerable? And I think that's really interesting. I would love to hear what everybody thinks about that.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of our contact details are in the show notes, and we always love to hear from everybody. So I would say this was an amazing first episode for season 13.
Season 13.
I know. Can you believe it? And we're still here.
So if we do 8 episodes for this season, we're going to wrap up on Lucky 13 right around Halloween.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Give or take a couple of days. So
yes, maybe we should do, like, I know I'm saying this out loud and then we won't be able to do it, but maybe we should do
alive.
We do this. Maybe we can do something really special. We can have somebody Halloweeny on with us and do something like that. That might be a lot of fun.
Okay.
Let's do that. Let's plan on something like that. We'll figure it out. That'll be a surprise because we don't know yet.
Yeah, right. It'll be a surprise if it actually happens.
We are horrible. Why do you guys listen up? So we are awful. But we have tons of questions already. If you have questions that you want us to go through on the air, Deej from Diggin' with Deej. I love Deej so much. She and I were on the phone for an hour and a half a couple weeks ago. She has so many questions about things. And she does metal detecting.
Right.
Which is so cool because metal detecting in a lot of ways is like paranormal investigation.
Sure.
And she's had some really cool experiences. So she has some questions. Our friend Chris, who listens to the show, also sent in a cool question. So we have some questions, but we'd love more. So if you guys want to send us in any questions you have, we'll just bullshit our way through them and see what we can do. And see if we can come up with any ideas for you.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Yes.
All right. So there you go. Season 13, episode 1 is in the books.
That's right.
Reach out to us if you have any questions, and we will see you next time. Till then, bye.
Bye.